presentation, I will give you some tips, not about the design system, but in general, how we can build our work process. So what is a design system? The design system is not something that didn't exist before. Maybe the terminology is new, but if we will look what is around us in the environment, we will see that everything is built on the same method as the design system. For example, if we look at the buildings, we will see that they're based from the small components, which is windows, rooms, stairs, doors, and everything. And then we have a building. And then from the building, we can build the cities. This is one example from the environment. And the another example is a New York subway station. We can see that they use specific styles, which is typography, colors, shapes, and everything about the styles. And also on the another screen, we can see that there is everything about the principles and rules, where we can place it and how we can place it. What should be the spacing between different elements, where we need to place it on the wall, and all of this. So it's another example of the design system in different environments. So if we're talking about what is the design system and the environment, we're talking about there's rules, constraints, and principles. And if we're talking about the digital world, so it's rules, constraints, and principles implemented in both design and code. We need to always remember that if we build a design, it's not a final product. We need also to take into account that it should be developed. So what is the design system? Design system contains three main parts, which is voice and tone, design kit, and storybook/components. Voice and tone is something how you will build the design system. It's a language, it's the guidelines, basically what the language you're going to use in your design system, how you're going to structure all the sentences, how you're going to structure all the questions inside your model windows, and all of this. Design kit is basically a file for the designers, the component that we build inside the design system. It's from designer's part. And the storybook/components, it's actually called storybooks, but I put /components so we will understand that this is also the component that we built in Figma, but it's from the development side. It's coded components from the development side. So I want to focus on the design kit, which based on the atomic design. And the atomic design is a method which includes 5 steps. It means that this is the method when we start from the simple and small things, and we're starting to build bigger and bigger and bigger components, and then we have a final product. So this method includes 5 steps, which is atoms, molecules, organisms, templates, and pages. And let's talk about each of them. So atoms, it's the core of the design system. It's a core where we need to start. It's our most basic elements: colors, buttons, fonts, and icons. We cannot build the design without the colors. We cannot build the design without the typography. We cannot build the design without buttons. So we need to start from this point. And then when we have atoms, we need to start to build molecules, which are combined from the atoms. Let's say I took the typography, I placed it above the field, which is also a typography plus the color. And next to it, I placed the button. So now I have molecule that I can build, that I can continue build our designs. And the next level is organisms. Organisms are combined from multiple molecules, and then it's also something that can be functional on their own. So navigation bar, side panel, footer, and all of this. And finally, when we have organisms, we can build templates. Templates, it's usually something, for example, we have a huge system and we already have some of the layouts that we need to reuse in order to keep consistency in our designs. So we also need templates, and templates is something with a like a Blake frameworks. By blank, I mean we don't supposed to use real text, no real context, no real text, no real images, nothing, just all the components with lorem ipsum with no real information. And then finally, we can start to build final product, which is pages. And on this, during this step, we're starting to put all the real context, write all the real text, put images, and put everything what we want. So this is how the design system built, again, from the simple things to the bigger things. But there is another question: what is the difference between UI kit, design system, guidelines, UI library? Because I can agree that in the internet we have a lot of different terminology, and sometimes it's very confusing and we have no idea what is the difference between them. So I was trying to think how I can explain it in the easy words, because sometimes, again, it can be confusing. So as I said, design system, it's voice and tone, design kit, and storybook. And let's say this is your 3 small circles. If you have only one or only 2 of them, it's not a design system. So if you have only voice and tone, it's a guidelines. If you have only design kit, it's a UI kit. If you have them together, it's a style guide, but it's never a design system without 3 of them together. So why do we need a design system? And this is a more way how we can explain it to the client, and also how we can understand that we need a design system, why we need to use it in general. So the first is user needs consistency. Let's say we have a complex system where we want at the end the user to buy something on our website, for example. So if we don't have consistency, and if we have a lot of different colors, if we have a lot of different typography, the user will never reach the goal, because he will be confused and he will not understand what is the flow through the whole system. So if there is no consistency, there is no good product, and we will not reach the goal. It means that without the design system, we cannot keep this consistency. And here's an example from the material design. They use 2 different types of fields, the white one and the gray one. And on the left side, you can see that there's explanation how, if you want to use both of them, how you can use it, that you need to use them on the separate environment. If we're looking on the right images, we can see that all of them together, and now I don't understand, like I can be confused. Either it's a disabled, the gray field is disabled, or maybe the white one is just a read only, and it's only the simple form that the user need to fill in quickly. So another reason why do we need it is a business need efficiency, and we have 3 of them, and the first one is for the designers. Again, we have a complex system where we have, let's say, I have an application, I have an application, I have 100 screens, and then when product manager comes to me and say, hey, Polina, we need to change this button to another button. And then I don't have components, I don't have styles, so I come to the file and I understand that for each screen, for each 100 screens, I need to go for each of them and change manually. So I understand that I'm already mad, I already don't like these changes, I want to fight, so like, I started to talk with the manager, listen, current button is amazing, we don't need to change it, just because I understand how long it will take me just to change one button in the whole design. So in order to keep our work faster without losing the quality, we need to always use components in the design system. So again, if we have in the design system one master component, we have only one place where we can change the component, and then it will affect all our screens, and it's just 1 minute works. And in this way, we won't be afraid of fixes or any changes in the design all the time. So another business need efficiency, but this time it's for the developers, but basically it's very similar what we have. From the design side, we have a design system, and from the developer side, they have a UI library, which is basically the same, one for the Figma, one for the code. So here's an example how they work if they have design system and without design system. So with design system, every element that you can see on the page, you can see that some of them are like, we have 3 circles, we have a lot of the same body paragraphs. So if we have it as a component, they just easily pulled it directly from the library once. They don't need to do anything. So they save a lot of time. There is an ability to create changes. There is ability to redesign the project very fast. And if they're working without the design system, as you can see on the another example, each component, even if it's the same component, they cannot copy it. They will code it all the time from scratch, and it will take a lot of time, and it makes the redesign for the project almost impossible. So, and the last one, another business need efficiency for the scale. So companies pressures designers and developers to work faster without losing the quality because they want to implement new features. And there is no way to implement new feature and to grow faster if we don't have components, if we don't have design system, if we didn't build our work in the proper way. This is also an example of why do we need a design system, but not for the designers and developers, it's also for the company to grow faster. And also, if we don't have a design system, every new hire in the company, they will bring much more house in the designs because there is no rules, there is no principles, and every designer and every developer will want to add something from himself. Here's an example of designers to developers ratio in the worldwide companies. For example, in Atlassian Design, I don't know how to pronounce it well, Atlassian. In Atlassian Design, they had 20, in the 2012, they had 25 developers for one designer. And in 5 years, they improved it by having 9 developers for one designer. So how they started to do it? They started to build the design systems, they started to build the rules and principles. But my favorite example is IBM. They had, in 2012, they had 72 developers per one designer. And in 5 years, they have only 8 developers per one designer. So it's amazing numbers how the design system and Dual operate and how this collaboration can work for us and for the company. So the code part. I think this is a very important part because not everyone, not all the designers understand what is the importance of the code, what is the importance to talk with the developers. And we have this, I think everybody had this when you have a design in Figma and then you look at the final product and then the final product is not the same like a design and sometimes it's completely different from the design. And why do we have it? Because we are not communicate with them in the proper way, because we don't know how to communicate with them. It's for the most of the designers, it's more like a fight. And it's not good. And I'm going to raise the question who are our best friends in our work, and our best friends are developers. So I think I think that this formula should be in every and each company, and like the designer plus developer should equal love and harmony. And we are the one who needs to start to build it. I have a funny example, and then we can discuss it. An example how the designers can work with the developer and why it can be a problem. So why I decided to bring this example, because in here we can see that we are creating a design with child mode, we're creating something, I don't know, very creative, but we don't understand if it's even possible to build in the code, and we don't understand how hard it is for the developer to build, because we don't know what they're using in their work, what is the code, how hard it is, what is the level, what I'm trying to do, like how they can build it. And this raises a thing that knowing the fundamentals of coding help you design wireframes, prototypes, and user interfaces that can actually be built. Because probably this creative toggle you will see in the final design as a black and gray toggle, and that's it. Probably you will never see it in the final product. And also the knowing of basic, to have basic coding skills, it will be easier for us to communicate with the developers. So I want to talk a bit about this. So we have programming languages, which is front-end, back-end, and mobile. We're not going to talk about the mobile but basically it's apps for the devices like smartphone and tablets. This is something different. I want to focus on front-end and back-end. This is more complex, and this is something that we need to focus on. Front-end, it's applications and the websites. It's also called a user site. It's everything that the user interacts with, everything what we see on the screen, this is a front-end. All the colors, all the fonts, all the layouts, everything is a front-end. And the second part is a back-end. It's also applications and websites. And it's also called the service side because user will never interact with this. User will never see it. It's always on the, behind the scenes, on the back end, actually. So the example for this, let's say I have a form and the user needs to log in or register in the special website. He needs to put all the information inside the form, and then all this information will be sent to the backend. And then I can reuse it by building different profiles, or if I want to have a drop-down with a list and have their specific names, specific people inside the drop-down, I will take this information from the backend. The backend will send me this information. So when I'm talking about that we need to know how they build it and we need to have basic coding skills, I'm not talking about that we need to first to create the design in Figma and then implement it by ourselves. This is not the level that we need to know about it, but we need to know really basic things, which is CSS, HTML, and JavaScript. And CSS is in charge for the styles. It's all the colors, all the sizes, fonts, and everything about the style. HTML is a layout of the page, headline, paragraph, button, whatever, and the JavaScript is in charge for the animation and all the interactions. So let's say I have a navigation bar on the top, I click on the tab, and then it will bring me to the bottom of the page, let's say, because there's my section that I click on. So there is also at the end of the presentation, there is a resources for you guys if you want to try. I highly recommend it to try to build by yourself a landing page, a simple one. There's a lot of YouTube tutorial videos how you can build it, and then you will understand the basic of it, and you will know how to read the code. So why I want to focus on this? Does everybody watch the Config 2023 from Figma? So everybody needs to watch it. So in the Config 2023, they announced that they're gonna focus in the future on the features for the developers. Because they already created a lot of stuff for the designers, but we are working together and they also forgot about the developers. We had an inspect that they cannot use at all. It's, I don't know, it's a code, but it's not usable in the I don't know, developer slide. So now they already created the dev mode, and it's also another reason to try to understand more how they work, how we can help them to build the final product, because at the end we have the same purpose, the same goal, to build the final product. And now I want to talk about the tips, and it's not the tips about how to build the design system, it's the tips in general how to build the work process, the basic stuff, the naming, auto layouts, and all of this. Because without this, we cannot build the design system, we cannot use the features of Figma. And also I want to talk to you in this part, not to PitangoUX designers, but you need professionals that are learning all the time, watching config, trying to be like a shark in the new Figma features, not for the company, not for the clients, but for yourself, because it's up to you if you want to be, I don't know, if you want to follow the right workflow or not. So the good designer is not only the designer who is a creative and who can create creative, again, landing page design, whatever. It's also a designer who always meets the deadlines, who knows how to start and where to start, who knows what is the prioritization of the tasks, basically who knows what to do and how to use the tool and everything about the organization. So the first tip that I'm gonna give, for some people it's very obvious, but for some people it's not. If you have a lot of different projects, if you have a lot of different clients, if you got the big client and you don't know how to start, do the same that Atomic Design. Take the big thing and try to break it into the small steps. Whenever you have a small steps, you know where to start, you don't have anxiety, you're not stressing out, you know, okay, for this client I'm doing something today, for this client I'm doing something tomorrow, and you're not starting from the big things, because when you start from the big things, then you understand that you forgot to do something else. Another thing that I want to mention, that Figma is a very young software. Also, UX UI is a very young field. And it means that if you have any problem that you don't know how to solve, if you're struggling with something, I promise you there is one person who already solved everything for you. You just need to understand how to structure your question in order to get the right answer. So Google all the time. And now here is the first step. After we got the client, we need to create a file for the client. We need to create a Figma file. And it's very important to name this file and to make a cover. This is the first step that we need to do. Here is an example how it was 1.5 years ago in here. And then we created, I created very functional without the design covers, and then what we have now. So in the first example, you can see that first of all, not all the files are with a name, which means I cannot search for them, never, just scroll forever till I will find the right file. And also I cannot understand anything because I don't have any picture on it. So it will take a lot of time just to find the file that I want to work in. On the second example, you can see that, okay, there's no design, but at least we have some useful things. So I can see what is the product, I can see who is the client, I can see who is working on it, and I can see the difference between project files and the design system files. And at the end, you can see that we have a design, we have everything, we have naming, we can see clearly what is the work file, what is the client file, we see the name, we see the designers, basically everything. So it's also, again, for some people it's obvious, for some not, but we need to start from the beginning. So the first step also should be named and using covers. Just, first of all, it's for us to work faster. Another point is naming auto layouts and components. This is me, all these pictures from someone who is not using components, who is not using the styles. And then I need to redesign this application. And I need to start everything from scratch because I cannot change anything. There's 100 screens, there is no components. I can not put even one icon without rebuilding all the screen. So it's very, very important to think about other people that probably can take your project later, or with who you're working together, and also the developers and other stakeholders like product managers. The another step of the, after the covers, we created the cover, then we need to have structure inside the file. So in here we also have several examples. In the first example, you can see that we don't have a name for the pages. So for example, if I want to find the comment feature, I will never find it in here because I need to check every page in order to find this comment feature. In the second example, we can see that we have a cover, which is great. We have a naming for each page, and also we were trying to create the statuses in here, which is also very good, but still it's not enough because we don't have this visual hierarchy. And on the last example, we can see there is a structure, there is a tree. We also started to use different colors, and again, it's not obvious, but we can use images and put a lot of spacing in order to create trees. We can use images to copy it from the Google and to copy it from I don't know, WhatsApp been put in here in order to understand how to present status of the page, how to divide it by different sections. So I'm pretty sure the Figma will launch this feature later with all the collapse and expand sections with the statuses for each page. But we don't need to wait for that. We need to help ourselves to structure our work. Another naming, which is very important to use in the layers and inside the properties. On the background, we can see the layers, and we can see that we don't have any names, which is very bad because we cannot search for anything during the search panel. For example, the person will tell me we need to send me, I don't know, onboarding screen. I will never find onboarding screen because the onboarding screen called frame 33. So I need to go one by one, or the person need to point on the screen in order for me to find it. And also another tip, name your layers exactly the same what you see on the page. If it's a text, name it a text. If it's text plus icon, you can call it text icon or text plus icon. Name it all the time. And another importance of naming is inside the properties of the component. On this example, we can see that there is a component, but I don't know the name of the component. I don't know what the properties I have inside. I see that I have default something, but I don't know in which of the three properties I need to change. I can find the hover state or change the type of the component. And on another example, we can see that there is a name, there is a description. Also, the designer used yes, no value inside the properties, which allows us to turn it on and off, which is very useful. Also, probably you cannot see because it's very pixeled, but in the status, you also can put, inside the naming, you also can put different symbols. So you can put, let's say, the up arrow, so you will understand the status is related to the title on the top. And in this case, you also will understand that the status is not for the whole component, but for example, in this example, probably this is a status which is next to the title. Another important thing is auto layouts. Without that auto layouts, I cannot simply remove something or make it bigger or add something, because if I don't have auto layouts, I need to rebuild the full page. I need to move it a little bit. If I have a layout, I can easily change the order, add something, remove something. Also, on another example, I can see that if you have outer layouts, you can make responsive screens. I heard a lot of times that is boring, and how you can work on the design system and how you can, I don't know, name everything. And sometimes it can be boring. So at the beginning, you need to train yourself because it's also a personality. It starts, as I said, from the planning and from the scheduling and from the basically your work process, and then it's coming inside the files. And why do we need to do it? Again, if we watched the Config 2023, they launched a lot of different stuff, which is dev mode, variables, auto layouts, and properties. And for example, you cannot use variable properties, prototypes, without naming. Also, if you don't know if you don't know anything about the code, variable prototypes can be hard for you because there's a if condition that it's very hard to understand at the beginning. The things that they're built, also the variables for the colors, it's very close to the code, very close to the logic that they're using in the development. So without all this naming auto layouts and components, you cannot use Figma, and this is your first tool. So maybe right now you can still use it because there is no this dev mode, so you're gonna use it later. And for now we can live with this frame 33, but at some point they will implement something new which will break the whole design if you don't use auto layouts, if you don't use naming, if you don't use components. So it's very important for every designer to start from the beginning to work in a proper way, because it allows you to use more features that they are trying to build for us and also for the developers. So if you build everything from the beginning in a good way, developers don't need to rename it in the code because they already have a name from your design, for example. And also you will have much more power in the product, you will have much more power in the company, and also you will be on top of the market, let's say. So if you have any questions, I'm here.